In this video, Ripple answers PayID questions. PayID just launched on Product Hunt. What's Product Hunt? It's the premier location to launch any new tech product. Let's go.
And now, the XRP Minute with Chip on the chain.
Chip here with the XRP Minute. PayID, if you're not familiar with PayID, it was launched the other day by Ripple, and it is a universal payment pointer, much the same way we'd send an email to anybody. It doesn't matter where they are. We could send an email. We don't care what their ISP is, and we would use their name, a prefix with the @ symbol with the domain name. This works very much the same way. It has a prefix, which could be anything. Instead of an @ symbol, you'd use an email. This utilizes a $ and then wherever the domain is. So this is a phenomenal way to simplify sending payments, and it's platform agnostic. It's currency agnostic, does not care, and platform agnostic. So there are 40 different partners launching this, with Ripple heading this up. Let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at this. So I'd mentioned Product Hunt to you. Now, Product Hunt is a premier place to launch products. It's been around for a pretty long time. I know I launched my startup back here a couple years back. And one of the great things about Product Hunt, it's the premier place. You can go here and see all of the new tech. So here we go. This is just today, for example, and you can see some things, these are actually, so you have this thing called Matter. We'll scroll through, and we'll see some of the things. And you can see that what you do is you upvote them by clicking right here. And based on how many upvotes they get, they kind of rise throughout the ranks here. And this is how they take a look at interesting, exciting new tech. And this is where PayID launched. And Warren Paul Anderson takes questions. So let's take a look at it. Here it is right here. It launched the other day. As you can see, it had 434 votes. It was number 3. You're probably thinking, well, 3, it should be number 1. It should be huge, right? Agreed. However, you got to realize that when you have 459, 691, when you have these other projects here, I'll show you if you start looking through some of the numbers, sometimes some of these projects get big numbers like this one, 1,200, and then there's other times where they don't necessarily have big numbers. They may be in the 400s on other days. It all just depends on when that hits. So let's take a look at this. Let's dive in a little bit here. So you're saying, okay, Warren Paul Anderson, I want to show you his profile right here. This is his profile on Product Hunt. As you know, he's the head. He heads up product over at Ripple. He co-founded Hedgie, which is right here. So these are 3 things that are introduced, and people that put products on here are called hunters, or you can introduce it. And as you know, Hedgie was something that settled financial smart contracts 30 times faster. This was introduced about 5 years ago. And then, of course, we know Spring. So let's go back to this. So Warren Paul Anderson says, hey, Product Hunt, super excited to announce launch PayID today. PayID is like an email, like identifier, user, $ domain.com, can map to any bank account, credit card. So he gives a basic general description here using HTTP and DNS. So if it sounds confusing, that's just what we, HTTPS is what we do to resolve websites on the web right now. And DNS behind every IP address, there is a long number. Now, you wouldn't want to type that long number into your browser. If you go to ripple.com, that resolves at an IP address somewhere. It's a long set of numbers. This is the same way. Crypto is even longer. So you got this giant address of numbers that you have, and this is what makes it so easy. It's more of a human readable way to go ahead and send payments. So wanted to jump through some of these questions because I thought there were some good things asked by people. Now, you remember, not everybody here on Product Hunt, they're mostly tech heads, enthusiasts, people that just enjoy tech, but there's a lot of great techies on here. And a lot of the people that comment on this stuff, they're makers themselves. They actually launch their own products. So Jung Gong says, hey, this is really cool. Is it possible to link PayID with blockchain domain IDs like ENS or Unstoppable Domains? And Warren answers by saying, hey, yes, it's very possible. In fact, Unstoppable Domains plans to support PayID. And if you guys actually saw, we can actually click on this over here. Here's their Twitter post here. So we're excited to be part of the PayID org launch alongside Ripple, Brave, BitPay, Blockchain, and there's 40 in total. So it's a pretty big deal. Now, Unstoppable Domains, you can get something like myname.crypto. So you could basically use the same similar sort of a pay identifier and wrap it in. So that's where the big the big deal is about PayID is the fact that it's universal, right? It's not just one thing. So he basically says, yeah, it's something that's out there. Jun Gong answers back, hey, this is awesome. I cannot wait to try it out. Now, if I had to guess here, I would think that Jun Gong probably already vested in Unstoppable Domain, probably already owns a domain, so he or she, I'm not sure, thinking along the lines of, hey, wow, this is an opportunity for me to go ahead and take a look at this bigger product here. So want to jump over here. So Eddie asked a question, hey, is PayID different from other payment pointers implemented for Interledger? Now, I think this is a very good question. And, Warren answers, he says, hey, the payment address format is user, $, and domain.com, whereas the ILP payment pointer address format is $, the domain / the user. So you can see that the prefix, there really isn't a prefix in it. So what they've really done is they've gotten rid of the subdomain, or I would say the / user, and they've kind of rearranged it a little bit. But PayIDs are extensible to any network, including ILP. So that's a big thing. I want to say that again. They're extensible to any network. This is one of the things we talked about. It's agnostic. It doesn't care. It will go anywhere, and includes ILP. ILP payment pointers were primarily designed only for ILP. So you can see that ILP has a single use case, and that's all it was designed for. I thought that was a really, really good question. Jump into this next one here. So Ian asks a question. He says, hey, isn't this what you would get with PayPal? I mean, you can go to PayPal and send money to my email address, and I'll get it. Question is, does this require registration with PayID to be able to pay? Again, another really good question, and Warren answers this way. PayID is an open protocol that doesn't require registration and works across any payment network, including PayPal. PayPal is a proprietary application that requires registration with PayPal, only works with PayPal. So in a very nice way, what he's saying here is that, PayPal is a closed ecosystem. It's a walled garden. The whole idea about PayID, and it's a really good question, because you're thinking, well, hey man, I can just, I can send I can send money to anybody across the world just using an email address. Yeah, that's right, but it only works on PayPal, whereas PayID, being an open source protocol, works anywhere, and it doesn't really care, and it will work with PayPal. So this is what's really amazing about the tech. So William Nayland says, hey, would it be possible to resolve a QR code to a PayID? I'm constantly trying to think of innovative ways for people to tip a performer, and a printed QR on a violin case, or a pass the QR code instead of a pass the hat. Now that would be cool. Now I looked at William's profile. He actually is a musician, and so it's kind of like I said, there's a lot of different people on here, and his whole idea is, hey, can we pass a QR code? Warren says, hey, yeah, definitely. There's also an RFC for a PayID URI scheme, and it's over on GitHub. I jumped over there, nothing too exciting to look at. The point is that yes, absolutely can be built in. So whether it's a QR code or a payment pointer, where it's like this guy could be William at William $Nayland.com, right? That could be his pointing, or the name of his band or whatever. So I thought that was very cool. Jose Listeri answered, very interesting initiative. Just going over the RFCs, is this going to be channeled via an IETF? And he says, yeah, either IETF or WS3. Now, if you guys probably know W3C, which is a regulatory body for the internet. It's basically where all the standards for HTML are. And you also know the ILP is also, if you look at W3C. Now, this is a big deal too, because if it is either one of these bodies, it becomes sort of a standardized protocol, which is pretty awesome. Arbob says, hey, amazing idea. Just wondering how it could be integrated into India's UPI. Now, India's UPI is India's Unified Payment interface right here, and it's put out by, the whole idea here is you can basically take multiple bank accounts into a single mobile app, or tie everything together, and that's basically put together by, this is the NPCI, which they are, let me just zoom out of this right here. This organization right here, so these guys right here, they're the National Payments Corp of India. It's an umbrella organization for retail payments in India. It was set up with the guidance and supports Reserve Bank of India, RBI, and Indian Banks Association, IBA, right? And so this question is pretty insightful as well. It's, hey, it's a good idea, but what about India's UPI? And Warren answers that payment companies in India could run PayID servers and use UPI/NPCI as an underlying payment network. So basically, his answer is yes. Now, there would be a little bit more on the setup side, but overall, the answer is yeah, it can work. And then there's another one I thought that was worth taking a look at, and I'll let you guys know too. Hey, if you want me to do another video and answer questions on this, put your comments down below. Also too, if there's something else, another comment you want to make or a question, consider subscribing and looking down below there. We have another channel that you can also check out. But I wanted to, on our last video that I did, somebody had a good question, and that's why I wanted to cover it here. They said, hey, Harley says, hey, we've been using this in Australia for a couple of years. It's called payid.com.au. And a couple people in the last video put some comments in there as well. And I also saw some stuff on Twitter. But this guy all of a sudden jumps in and says, hey, but this is open to everyone in all currency types. And exactly, so you see a bunch of people jumping in here and basically addressing the question about PayID. But what I wanted to get to here, and this is the PayID in Australia here. Let's get to it. There we go. And Payment ID makes payment. So this is the Fishhead site. You'll recognize them. This is payid.com.au. And what they've done is much the same way in the US. If you're familiar with Zelle, Zelle allows you to send payment to any of the participating banks, which all the big banks are mostly participants. Even an online bank that I use is also a participant in Zelle. And the idea behind the PayID of Australia is they took major banks and put them together so you could send payments back and forth with a payment pointer. And so it's much the same idea here. That's why they talk about this PayID, and it's very, very similar in a sense. However, where it differs is the fact that, from what's going on with this here? Let's see. Okay, let's, I don't know. There we go. So with the regular PayID here, the key differentiator here between the Aussie version, the Aussie one is a bank one. The Zelle is a bank one where you can send an email or use a phone number to send it to anybody. They say it's instant time. Yeah, you'll get the money right away because the bank's going to go ahead. The participating bank gets it to you, but it's not a real-time settlement. Now, this whole idea of using this unified payment ID identifier is a game changer in the sense that it's open and it'll be really easy to use. We're going to get used to it. It's also interesting too, it is an American invention. They did use the $sign. You had to use something, right? The @sign was apparently taken, as you know, so they had to go ahead and use something there, and that's what they decided to use, and it makes perfect sense. Let me know if you have any other comments down below. That's all I got. I'm Chip, and I am out of here.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.